Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show, Operation Freedom, is to provide you information the bought-off lamestream fake media will not touch and will never present. You can join me on my radio show. Great analysis, great guests. Every Sunday, 2 to 5 Eastern. It's easy. Just go to davejanda.com, go to the upper right-hand corner, hit the Listen Live button. It's free. We're there every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 Eastern. We're also available at davejanda.com 24/7. We have the free side, the public side. We also have the subscription side, 30 cents a day. You can sign up for a month, $9. If you don't like it, get rid of it. But we have extra content you're not going to get from any other source. This past week, we had a whistleblower, if you will, a high-tech guru, the former president of Microsoft Canada, Frank Clegg, discuss the rollout of 5G technology, if you will, the good, the bad, the ugly. I guarantee you'll never see, hear, read, or experience that information in the bought-off lamestream fake media. Today, I want to go after the bought-off lamestream fake media and their tentacles and their puppets. Title of today's presentation is President Trump and freedom fighters, such as all of us, have been targeted and blacklisted. What am I talking about? Well, I'm pretty hot under the collar because if the deep state puppets had their way, this YouTube channel, my radio show, and davejanda.com would not be in existence today. In fact, they targeted it. They targeted it along with 500 other sites just this past week. What am I talking about? From Breitbart News, written by an individual by the name of Nolte. Poynter Institute, this is reportedly a higher echelon journalism institute, wants 515 outlets blacklisted. From John Nolte. The Poynter Institute, by the way, it's a .org organization, which means it's nonprofit. Funny that they're taking such a political stance. How they can get away with that under IRS guidelines is surprising to me. The Poynter Institute claims on its About page that it, quote, it champions freedom of expression, end quote. And yet on another page, the Poynter Institute published a list of 515 media sites, including Breitbart News and davejanda.com, by the way, that it wants blacklisted and shut down. Poynter calls the list a, quote, index of unreliable news sites, end quote, and it's openly calling for advertisers to stop sponsoring these sites, to pull their sponsorship, and to put these sites out of business. How special. If that's not a blacklist, tell me what is. This is Nolte writing for Breitbart News. This is straight up McCarthyism. This is nothing less than the return of the 1950s blacklisting crusade against those who hold inappropriate, unacceptable, and unapproved opinions. And what's more, the lion's share of the list cites a single source. Oh, this is special. Open sources. A list created, ready for this, by a single assistant professor from Merrimack College, Melissa Zimdars. She is the author of such great academic papers as, listen to this, folks, quote, watching our weights, the consequences and contradictions of televising fatness in the obesity epidemic. Or another real special one, quote, having it both ways, 2.5 Men, Entourage, and the televising of juvenile post-feminist masculinity, end quote. Oh, what wonderful pieces of work those were, right? What is Zimbar's methodology? Well, no one can say. Why? Because open source's official site is totally blank. That's right. If you go to it, folks, it's one page, and it's blank. Absolutely blank. Yeah. About 2 years ago, this assistant professor for media studies at Merrimack College gave an interview where she said that one of her criteria for blacklisting a site is, quote, hate, end quote. That is, she still believes the far-left Southern Poverty Law Center, more on them in a minute, is a credible organization whose hate labels should get you kicked out of public discourse. Nolte goes on. And now the 1950s blacklist has returned with a vengeance because the establishment media are fighting for advertising dollars and have lost their moral authority and ability to influence public opinion due to outlets, such as a number of those that were suggested to be banned have done the job. So which outlets were banned according to wanted to be blacklisted, according to the Poynter Institute and this Merrimack College open source? Well, here's some for you. The Washington Examiner, the Daily Wire, The Blaze, Red State, Project Veritas, Newsmax, Zero Hedge, LifeSite, Judicial Watch, Front Page, The Washington Free Beacon, The Daily Caller, The Drudge Report, USAWatchdog.com, and DaveJanda.com. Oh. All of which are on Poynter's blacklist. And just as the blacklisters did during the McCarthy era, they're trying to silence all of us by targeting our advertising sponsors. This from Nolte. But here's where Poynter's blacklist gets especially sinister, and Nolte's right on this. There is no one on Poynter's list of, quote, unreliable news outlets, end quote, responsible for spreading the biggest, most irresponsible and dangerous lies of the last half decade. Lies that have caused race riots and destroyed innocent lives. In other words, the outlets Poynter does not want blacklisted, are every bit as revealing as those of the ones Poynter does want blacklisted. So who don't they want blacklisted? Well, how about CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, ABC, CBS, PBS, NBC, MSNBC, Politico, BuzzFeed? All of whom have, and I agree with Nolte, have relentlessly and deliberately misled the American public on the biggest stories over the past number of years, such as the Trayvon Martin hoax, the Hands Up, Don't Shoot hoax, Donald Trump can't win hoax, the Russian collusion hoax, the Brent Kavanaugh serial rapist hoax, the Covington High School boys hoax, and yet every outlet blacklisted that are part of Poynter's blacklist either got those stories 100% correct or at least were skeptical of them. But DaveJanda.com and the other sites I listed, well, we're the ones so-called champions of free expression. We're the ones that need to be blacklisted, not those that have relentlessly and deliberately lied to the public for years. He concludes, which proves this is not a blacklist targeting the unreliable, but a blacklist targeting those who hold ideas the un-American Poynter finds inappropriate and unacceptable. How else to explain why Poynter wants the Media Research Center blacklisted for bias, but not Media Matters? The Poynter Institute is nothing less than a nonprofit version of Joseph McCarthy, Father Coughlin, and Big Brother. Well, let's do a little bit more work, right? Because when you look at this Poynter article, it's written by a guy by the name of Barrett Golding, who, they don't tell you this, but I did a little research. Barrett Golding is an employee of what? Of who? The Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah, that's the same Southern Poverty Law Center whose CEO, Richard Cohen, recently resigned for staff misconduct and discrimination. That's the same Southern Poverty Law Center the co-founder and chief litigator, Morris Dees, was removed for misconduct related to discrimination against black employees. Poynter Institute doesn't say that Barrett Golding, who wrote this, and it's on their site, is an employee of the Southern Poverty Law Center. But if you go to his LinkedIn page, here it is. Since January 2019, he works for the Southern Poverty Law Center, podcast producer. And it's been confirmed, Poynter blacklist of conservative news sites was created by Southern Poverty Law Center employee. A journalism institute released a blacklist of media outlets they deemed as unreliable. This from Joe Schaafstal from the Free Beacon. They deemed as unreliable that was created by an employee of the left-wing Southern Poverty Law Center and overwhelmingly contains conservative news media sites. Barrett Golding, an employee at the Southern Poverty Law Center, a far-left nonprofit embroiled in controversy over accusations of internal racism from its top management that led to its co-founder Morris Dees and President Richard Cohen being ousted from the group, created the list for Poynter. Oh, and it gets better, folks. You ready? So, did a little more research. Who funds this Poynter Institute, this bastion of journalism intelligentsia that can pass judgment and demand that organizations such as mine, DaveJanda.com, be terminated, that be bankrupted? Guess who some of the funders are? Oh, yeah, this is shocking. Sit down. Journalism Institute, funded by George Soros, falsely claims 29 conservative news outlets are fake news. Poynter, the Journalism Institute responsible for training writers and reporters, this from the National, decided to promote a left-wing smear of conservative groups online. The result was a hit job written by someone who works for the anti-conservative Southern Poverty Law Center for a journalism organization funded by prominent liberal billionaires such as George Soros and Pierre Amadar. So I called the Poynter Institute, and I called Merrimack College to talk to representatives from both of these organizations. I called the Merrimack College in Massachusetts and said, you have this assistant professor that has labeled my site unreliable. Unreliable. And I'd like an explanation, because I believe this is defamation of my site and my efforts over the past 40 years. What exactly did she find unreliable? Because she never contacted me. She never voiced an opinion. Never got. In fact, when I go to her website, it's one page and it's blank. Why don't you put me in touch with your legal representative, your general counsel at Merrimack? And they did. I got his voicemail several times. Never called me back. I then called the Poynter Institute. Told them the same situation. You have somebody that's employed by the Southern Poverty Law writing this, defaming me, defamation. Remember that guy, Nick Sandman? He's taken on the Washington Post millions of bucks for defamation. I was never contacted. I can tell you, I was never contacted by this assistant professor of media studies at Merrimack College about what exactly was unreliable. Was it unreliable? Let's talk about some of the things I've done. My research in prevention, that according to the federal government has prevented 1.7 million people from being injured in the United States, saved $2 billion every year. Was that unreliable? Was the research I did in orthopedic surgery to develop operations to help people that's won all these national and international awards, was that unreliable? Was the work that I've done through the Institute for Preventative Sports Medicine that I founded that's won all these national and international awards, was that unreliable? Or what about the work on my platform, Operation Freedom, DaveJanda.com, about how we determined how the Obama administration created the Hammer surveillance system illegally, that was illegally monitoring millions of individuals, including Trump and members of his campaign, but also millions of individuals, monitoring our phone calls, internet activities, financial transactions, emails. Was that unreliable? Because that's been proven correct. Or was it unreliable about how we reported on the stand down in Benghazi, where we brought whistleblowers forward from the theater of our operations about what really happened? Was that unreliable? No? Oh. Well, was it unreliable when we reported on the murder at SEAL Team 6? No? Oh. Was it unreliable about how for years we've talked about this fake Russian hack that's now been proven correct, or the fake Russian dossier that was funded by the Clinton campaign? Well, was that unreliable? No? Oh. Well, how about how we've outlined repetitively over the past couple years about how central banks and the deep state have criminally manipulated financial markets? Was that unreliable? Was it unreliable when we talked about how Bernie Madoff was working in collusion with big banks? Was that unreliable? Was it unreliable about how we presented information about how the globalists created global warming scam was in fact a scam? And scientific studies have shown it's a scam? Was that unreliable? Was it unreliable how we reported about how Obamacare would lead years in advance to huge cost increases, reduce availability to care? Was that unreliable? Was it unreliable about how we talked about for years how Obamacare was based on the most unethical means of cutting healthcare costs, the rationing and denying of care? Was that unreliable? Was it unreliable how we reported about how the hazards of the freedom stripping globalist plan of Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030? No? Was it unreliable about the criminality of the Fast and Furious operation in the Obama administration? No? Oh, was it unreliable about how the bought off, we reported on how the bought off lamestream fake media is a tentacle of the deep state and globalist syndicate, as this blacklist confirms? No? Oh, was it unreliable about how government agencies were weaponized by the Obama administration to destroy the freedom movement, such as utilizing the FBI, the Department of Justice, the CIA, and the IRS? And I can talk to you about the IRS, where we were targeted, my family and I were targeted because of my opposition to Obamacare. Was that unreliable? No? Well, I got a response back, not from Merrimack College, it's still hiding, but from the Poynter Institute. And first thing they did is they edited that part of the story out that said that we should be terminated, that our sponsors should go away, that they should be. They took that part out. That wasn't good enough. That's ridiculous. So the second thing they did is I got an email from Barbara Allen, who is from the Poynter Institute, who's the managing editor, and. Here's what she said to me. I spoke to her on the phone, actually. My wife was surprised how civil I was. But I did confront them with this background about this is what I've done in my 40-year career. And this is what we've done on the platform. What is unreliable? Could not say anything was unreliable. Could not justify the article, could not justify why they use this open source that's a one-page website that's blank. But here is the response on the evening of the next evening, May 2nd. Hi, Dr. Janda. I wanted to this is after my phone call conversation. They changed it once they took the sponsors should not leave part out, and then should leave a part out, and then they did this. Hi, Dr. Janda. I wanted to let you know that we have decided to remove the database entirely. You can see our reasoning and explanation here, and there's a letter from the editor. Your polite response and attention to this matter was appreciated. You have my sincere apology and a promise to do better next time. So the list is off their site, but a friend of mine sent me the list that still is present, that they didn't get scrubbed from the internet. Now, if Hillary can scrub her emails, this Poynter Institute that's funded by George Soros and supported by the Southern Poverty Law Center surely has the financial resources to scrub the internet for any semblance of that article. Because here's the bottom line, folks, and here is where I need your support. Unfortunately for the globalists and their puppets, because they've destroyed the rule of law, but hopefully it's coming back. When you defame somebody, it doesn't go away overnight. And this is what they need to learn. The rule of law only survives and is reestablished when those who are guilty of an offense, the Poynter Institute, Merrimack College, this assistant professor from Open Sources, who are guilty of an offense, need to be held accountable and not allowed to act if nothing happened. I hope you'll support what we do on this YouTube channel. I hope you'll network this to anyone and everyone, because everyone on those blacklists, on that blacklist, has been defamed, has been slandered, has been libeled, and it has to stop. I hope you'll join us at davejanda.com. I hope you use the free content. I hope you'll come and join us as a subscriber to davejanda.com and support us so I can continue to go after these folks. Because I can tell you, without my subscriber base, I would not have the funds available to fight these people. I hope you'll become a subscriber. It's 30 cents a day, $9 a month. We have incredible content. We have our WTF show where we provide information from behind the curtain every week, video format show. We have our Insider Insight show. I hope you'll join us for that. I just had Frank Clegg on. It's a huge, huge interview that you need to know about. We've released several of our interviews. Recently with Gene Ho, the photojournalist from the Trump campaign. My interviews with Bill Benny. We have our interviews, our whistleblower interviews with Charles Woods, father of Ty Woods, who died in Benghazi, and Travis, the whistleblower that was from the theater of operations about the stand-down order from the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton. We do this, but we need support to do it, and I hope you'll become a member of our subscription service. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for being a part of our platform here on YouTube. Hope you'll join us at davejanda.com. And I hope you'll support us so we can keep taking on these individuals, because I'm not done with the Poynter Institute. I'm not done with Merrimack College, because this is an assault against every American's freedom of speech. These individuals targeted us before the 2020 election to remove these 500 some sites that they have deemed to be harmful to the deep state. They targeted us. They wanted to get rid of us because the way they were going to work, it was a dirty up operation, just like they did with the Trump campaign people. What they were going to do is they were going to put this article out. They were going to let it sit for about a week. And then what they were going to do is they were going to take this article and funnel it through their media tentacles, through all the bought-off lamestream the CBS, NBC, ABC, and create this huge uproar where these 500 sites, including mine, would have to be taken down. That was their plan. But because we got wind of it early, because of Breitbart News, we got wind of it and we complained and we jammed them. I let them know in no uncertain terms, this is a legal problem for them. This is defamation. This is no different than Nick Sandmann and what the bought-off lamestream fake media did to him. And that's what they were planning to do with these 500 sites. And we got them with their pants down. We got them early. And we're not going to let up. And we need your support to continue that pressure. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.